the statement by the, Emir Sanusi, talking about how, when it comes to him helping this present administration, he has removed his hands and his legs. He will no longer be helping the President Tinubu's administration. And he has said that the President doesn't have credible people around him that can properly interpret his actions or his visions. Do you believe his concerns are valid? Before you go in, you also mentioned the past mismanagement that what we're facing right now is just consequences that came about because of past mismanagement of the country. Do you think that his concerns are valid?
I will say his concerns are more than valid. It's the reality that we've been denying as a people. But first, let's look at who Emir Sanusi is. Because whatever you do, if you don't know who is talking, you may never be able to understand where he's coming from. He's not perfect, but then he has something going for him. He has a brilliant mind, and he also has the courage. He also makes mistakes. Some of us, I don't want to go into the history of when he had issues and was lucky to have escaped the Hamas, and then he metamorphosed to becoming the CBN governor. And during his tenure, we cannot say he did not do well. No, we cannot say that. He did well to the best of his ability. And because the position that he held was not and is not still a political position, it's supposed to be held by a neutral person who is supposed to deliver his job based on the law guarding the Central Bank of Nigeria. So he noticed that some monies were being moved out during the Jonathan's time, and he raised alarm. His alarm was partly false because the amount he said was being stolen, was not being remitted, far exceeded what it was. But then he was passionate about correcting an ill. Luckily for him, his people from the north sided him because it was felt that what he did has demarcated President Jonathan so that he will not be able to go for re-election. And Jonathan, some people call him, he was weak. Yeah, he displayed traits of actually being weak, because what was to happen was that the CBN governor will have been really checked and maybe picked up for questioning, and then in the course of it, people will be talking about, oh, release him, he's under detention, and you'll be managing that public perception of what is going on. But what did we have? Emir Sanusi sneaked into Kano from his base, and the next moment he was to be made a king, the emir, which will bestow on him instant immunity by virtue of that very office. And he wasn't even the one to have been made the king, from what we know. The son of the late emir, who is even having issues with now, Ado Bayero, will have been the king, but the then governor of his state needed to give that protection, and that was done. And for those that may recall, Jonathan never congratulated him. Fast forward to even when he became the emir. What did he do? He spoke loudly against how northerners are wasting their children, creating the kind of situation where the northern children will not have a future because of the Amajiri system. He was loud on the problem confronting the north. Nobody, to the best of my knowledge, has been so vocal. And what did he get? He was dethroned. You get me? Because of his being vocal, he criticized the governor. Criticized as in, what you are doing is not right. This is how you should do it. When he criticizes, he gives options on what should be done. Before you knew it, even under President Buhari, he was raising alarm that people were making billions of naira doing nothing but just trading on dollars, foreign currency. The kind of alarm, the kind of things that he has brought to the table, nobody has tried it except Aline Dume that has said recently that he won't be criticizing President Tinubu again. It's Aline Dume who has come close when he said on an international TV station that the administration of President Bola Tinubu is made up of kleptocrats and kakistocrats. Kleptocrats is ruled by thieves. Kakistocrats is ruled by fools. As a principal officer, principal member of the party, a senator who has been there almost from 1999. So, outside someone like Aline Dume, who has come close just because of what he had to say, it's Emir Sanusi. He was lucky because of the political problem that has been going on in Kano, where the particular governor would depose somebody, you have a successor, the successor will fight his predecessor, and then return the person that was deposed. That has happened to Emir Sanusi, and then, as we speak, their case is still in court between Ado Bayero and himself. And the feeling is that the presidency, from what is being speculated, is maybe body language or by whatever reason, not against him, but in support of Ado Bayero. I don't want to say it's because of that has made him to say this. Yes, sometimes we do not know how to convey how we feel. As careful as I try to be as a human being, you know, there are times I may do or say something that, you know, I say, I will have done it the other way. Yes. But why am I saying so? What he said, which I think I have some of those things there for the benefit of those that may not even know. Let me just read out his words as reported. He says, to be honest, I can stand here today and I can give a few points that are contrary, a few points that explain perhaps what we are going through and how it was totally predictable, and most of it, and maybe avoidable. But I'm not going to do that. I've chosen not to speak about the economy and the reforms, or even to explain anything, because if I explain it, it will help this government. And I don't want to help the government. I don't want to help this government. He went further. And you know, they are my friends. If they don't behave like friends, I don't behave like a friend. So I watch them being stewed, and they don't even have people with credibility. That's a key word that we're going to talk about. And they don't even have people with credibility who can come and explain what they are doing. But I'm not going to help. I started out helping, but I'm not going to help. I'm not going to discuss it. Let them come and explain to Nigerians why the policies that have been pursued have been pursued. And meanwhile, I'm watching a very nice movie with popcorn in my hands. I'm watching them stew. But I will say one thing. What we are going through today is, at least in part, not totally, at least in part, a necessary consequence of decades of irresponsible economic management. Those are the words of Emir Sanusi, Lamido Sanusi, the Emir of Kano. I think he was reinstated after being deposed in May 23, 2024. And then they are still struggling with the case. The fundamental things he has said, the bottom line is that he does not believe, he does not see the possibility of the reforms that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is carrying out. He does not see the possibility of those reforms helping the country. And if you want to fact check that, you just reflect a little on what even IMF said late last year, that they did not recommend the reforms that is going on. For IMF to distance itself from that reform shows that there's something fundamentally wrong. And what is the pointer to that is fundamentally wrong about the reforms going on, particularly in the oil sector, is that, for me, it is not even a reform. Because if you don't have a plan, you are not ready to do anything. There was no plan. The only plan that there will have been, or that is available, is just a single document that His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu presented as an opposition leader to Jonathan in 2012, which he himself has refused to implement. And to show that the issue of credibility that has been raised by Sanusi is genuine, is that even his aides have refused to draw his attention that there is a roadmap, first class, no other better roadmap than the one you wrote and signed, I think on January 8th or 9th of 2012. When Jonathan removed fuel subsidy, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave a master plan and called it Jonathan tax, that it's like Jonathan was the Pharaoh who does not give the Israelites straw to make bricks, but is asking them to go and get the straw and still make the bricks the same quantity, that it is wicked, is going to destroy the people. And truly, this implementation has, in actual sense, destroyed the people and given the government bad name. So, I agree with Emir Sanusi on what he actually said. And then to the fact that he has been giving ideas, he doesn't want to give again. The reality is that I have not seen any administration that took his counsel. Not even President Buhari. Was Sanusi speaking? Yes. His videos are there. I just hope my archive is safe. I save a number of this because I research. So I agree with him that he has been giving ideas, and his ideas can be very useful if adopted. After all, I do the same. I even do more. I do more because this is my job. This is my calling. I didn't start now. We run what we call the Public Policy Ideas Bank, while also speaking for the voiceless because of what we have experienced. So, are the ideas taken? No. Even when you force it on them, they will not take. Highest, it's like one of them did. He stole what was given to him, and I went after the person. That's a story for another day. So, on the issue of credibility, one will say, is that statement not too strong? What does it mean to be credible? We are talking about, having been trustworthy, being believable, but merely asking citizens if they have trust in their government, Sharon, even you, you won't be able to answer in the affirmative.
Most know that, citizen.
No, I'm just giving a reference, and I'm going to also drop it on the table because you have received calls. You have received guests here. And how many guests or how many callers will tell you they have trust in government? Government generally, not just at the center, have lost the trust of citizens. And it is important. They must gain that trust. And you cannot gain that trust through intimidation. Anybody, your word should be it. Anybody should be able to take a leader's word to the bank. So if a leader speaks, and then you go to sleep, you wake up, and you try to make use of the word, and you discover that that word has not become flesh. You know, like Christ did. You know, Christ was, the situation was a word becoming flesh, and then dwelled among men. And today, no matter who you are, if you don't like to believe in Jesus or God, you just believe in something else, because we did not create ourselves. So leadership is next to God himself, because they are representatives of God. So where situation where you find leaders who are unable to keep their words, you discover that you are faced with the worst scam ever that can be known to man. And my guest, Barrister James Essien, made a statement, I think on the first day I hosted him here. He said, what you don't know, you worship. What you don't know, you worship. How does that apply to what we are seeing? These politically exposed persons are able to continue doing what they are doing because of gullibility of citizens, because of fear, because of ignorance, because of illiteracy. Why? You find people who are victims of certain persons worshiping the same person or the same people because of ignorance. So, the bottom line, the kakistocracy or kakistocrats and the kleptocrats that Aline Dume said, is that founded? Yes, it is founded, because the kind of things you hear, the kind of monies that are stolen, the kind of budgets that are even these people have the guts to write and to go and tender in the National Assembly, or even to bring like MDAs, agencies, ministries and departments and agencies who are going to defend their budget. Sharon, you've heard how JAM used over 800 million naira to do what?
Fumigation, but they debunked it.
Are you the one that created the news? Did it come from me?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, why is the Senate, why is the National Assembly saying they will not approve budget for them? Is that the only one? Okay, how about the feeding? How much they used to feed themselves? Feeding, not under COVID. Feeding as a subhead. The same JAM was where we had, was it monkey or python that was swallowing millions of naira? So now, what are we talking about? They are not the only one. Far from it. Far from it. The reality is that if you see what goes on, if you know what goes on, and you are able to maintain your sanity, you are one of the most blessed human beings. And that is the consciousness. That's the level that some of us are operating, Sharon. What is going on shows that a number of persons who have found their way to public offices lack credibility. They are not trustworthy. But is that something new? No. Socrates has said so long ago, that there will come a time when thieves and robbers are able to gain power through democracy. Democracy will become worse than any other form of governance. I'm paraphrasing. And that's the reality. We found some persons who clearly in the community, even they themselves, they know that they have their criminal records is something that will have been, they shouldn't even be alive and free. But they are the ones here and there. So what do you expect? It is a matter of, this is my opportunity. Why? Poverty awaits every Nigerian. So if you have opportunity to grab anything and everything, you do it. Even it means killing. I have had people that I had respect for tell me, this country, this state is irredeemable. See how you can help yourself. Leave what you are doing, because you will never succeed. It didn't start today. In fact, when I started my magazine, one of the persons, very senior person I went to with a copy of my magazine, Open Forum, when he looked at it in 2010, he looked at me and said, "You are wasting your time. This country is irredeemable. Forget it. Go and find some other thing to do." And this was somebody who was in an office that was supposed to help put Nigeria together. I looked at him and I said to myself, this is part of my learning process. I walked away. He didn't even encourage me. He didn't even say, oh, don't worry, just keep doing it. Or, oh, take this and see how you can, whatever I can help you do. I put in millions into my magazine. But is it a waste? No. Have I changed? I'm more determined than ever before. Why? The lack of credibility of certain persons in very high places must not discourage you, but what should it do? It should inspire you that if this kind of person has courage to come out and be doing what he or she is doing, why should you, that you are doing to do good for the greatest majority? Emir Sanusi has his weaknesses, yes. He's even lucky to be alive till today because of some of the stories we read while some things transpired, even during the Abacha time. But here he is. He's a fighter. I think he has enough money to even say, I don't want to be king. But maybe in the spirit of service, let me just be there for my people. Makes him to be ready to fight at that level. We can't dismiss his words. My people have a saying. If you don't, you can take the message and leave the messenger. It's very, very important. And that should help us to checkmate ourselves, not just at national level. And I've said this, and I'm sure you know this. Have you been to the villa before, Sharon? I'm sure you've not. Let me say I'm sure. Have you entered villa before to see the president or getting close to the gate?
I might have.
No. I have not. The closest I went to was during the Atiku's time. I entered Atiku's official residence. And I didn't even know the geography in my head. You understand? And I was just part of a crowd that went to receive him during his battle with his president then. You know, he was down, he was hospitalized in UK. When he came back, we went to the airport, received him, brought him back to his house, and then he stood at the balcony and spoke. And I got inspired. And it was from there that we left. I've never shaken hands with him. You understand? But what is the inspiration? The inspiration is that in Akwa Ibom State here, you can trek to the government house and even enter. Even if it's not for anything, just to say prayers, to pray for the person that is there, and you walk back. You can't do that in Abuja. So we should be concerned more with your small space in your local government. Some people, till they die, they may never get close to the villa, talk less of even entering the premises. Some may never even get to Abuja. Till my parents left, the highest my father went was Lagos. You know, he was a seat of power then. But did he come to see the then president or head of state? No. Visiting the son. Whereas there are people who are on the saddle, people who should be thinking or getting feedback from thinkers on policies they should do for the greatest good. It's not happening. Break an idea that will make society better. Nobody takes, because it will require accountability. It's a pity, but it's something that we must not shy away. You may be hungry, like some of us are starving, doing things that people that are eating, like our jam people that say they spend 1 point something billion on feeding and all of that, they can't deliver. So it's time for us to be interested in being part of governance, because governance is not about those in public office. Governance has to do with those in public office and citizens. Partisan politics is different.
All right.
Yeah.
Citizen.
Yes.
Now, something that the emir said was talking about past mismanagement, decades of mismanagement. What structural changes are necessary to prevent a recurrence of these economic challenges? That's one. And I'd like to know from your perspective, do you see the current administration now correcting these mistakes that the past administrations made?
Well, when we talk about decades of mismanagement, This should not shock you. If it shocks you, well, you have shock absorber. Whatever level of mismanagement there had ever been, Sharon, we have the worst level of mismanagement in the last couple of years. I read an article that Professor Bolaji Akiyemi wrote on corruption. And he said that the money stolen in Nigeria from, I think, 1960 till when he wrote that article, which must have been in the maybe earlier than 2010 or thereabout, maybe between 1999 or thereabout. He said you can line it up and you'll get to the moon and back. If you line up the Naira denomination, it will get to the moon and be back maybe a couple of times. Yes, that sounded like an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But it is not. Why? A man called Obuna Obla, he was made the secretary, I think executive secretary of a special unit to recover public properties. He granted interview, permit me to mention, to Seun Akimbaloye on channels. I hope I'm not wrong. Akimbaloye. What did he say? He said that they got intel about somebody who has X number of very expensive vehicles and they are armored, about 80 pieces of them. And if you calculate the cost of that, it will be unbelievable. Even up to now, some people say maybe the man is not sound. Then they discovered an account that contained about 60-something billion dollars belonging to one person. And they decided to get approval to go after it. And his team was stopped by the same government he was working for. Do you know what $65 billion means? There is also a man called Honorable Kazaure. He is or was a member of the Federal House of Reps. He's not given to grammar. He does not speak. His power of oratory is not really there as in somebody who schooled well or whatever. I'm not trying to demean him, but he is very vocal and he addresses issues. This man said a consultant had informed them that there is about 77 trillion that was lying down somewhere. And the matter was reported to President Buhari, and he set up a team where he was made, I think, secretary, and they traced the accounts and saw those monies there. Sharon, between 70-something and something trillion. And guess what? Some persons in the same government said no, it is not true. This thing, the investigation discontinued. The tape is there. The man has been insisting, and he has named names. Those monies are there. Those monies were not something of decades ago. The corruption that is prevailing corruption is nothing to compare. I mean, the corruption in the past is absolutely nothing to compare with what has been playing out possibly between 1999 and now. So when people talk about decades, how many decades from 1999 till now? Even Obasanjo, with all his weaknesses, Obasanjo tried. He fought corruption. He established the critical agencies that are fighting corruption. And it was the battle to undo corruption that gave APC opportunity, because they used corruption and a statement made by Jonathan to fight Jonathan. Jonathan was asked on a TV station, and our corruption said, stealing is not corruption, something like that. And they said, you see, So they harped on it that they were going to fight corruption, that the money stolen, when recovered, could be used to build this, build that. They listed it. I can never forget Lai Mohammed doing that. But what happened? Throughout their tenure, officially, at least from the last information and report that I got, they recovered just about $1 billion. And the main money, they said they have used it for some other thing. Was it $1 billion that derailed Nigeria's economy? Was the economy even derailed? No. Propaganda has been taken to the level that if you are not intelligent enough, you'll be swayed by propaganda. And that is why we initiated the war against Nigerian factor. It's not just for Nigeria, also for Akwa Ibom State, because propaganda and blackmail, impunity have become very well paying. So anybody that tells you that the corruption from 1960 to 1999 destroyed Nigeria, that person does not have credibility. What has happened is that the corruption from 1999, or better still, let's even leave Obasanjo era out of it. Thereafter, how much was oil being sold? What was the level of crude oil theft? Very minute. But what do we have? Under even the last administration, NNPC had no money to remit because they said crude oil theft and overhead costs, and then what they even called first subsidy that was a scam became real and started running in trillions. So who is fooling who? That's why we must fight ignorance by embarking on intensive citizenship education and enlightenment and simplifying it like the way we do here, where even a child would understand. No big grammar. In fact, maybe the station should think of doing analysis on critical issues in our local language. You understand me? And dialects. We have language, we have dialects. So if somebody wants to come here and speak in Ibibio, good. If he wants to come here and speak in Oro, very well. Wants to speak in Anang, very well. Or Obolo, you need to be able to communicate this thing. Let these people know. Because they are the ones that these people without credibility will go during elections and deceive them. And they will clap for them. Like here, say, the man has stolen your future, stolen your children's past, stolen their past, stolen the present and the future, with nothing to offer. But because he feels that money can buy everything. Intentional citizenship education and enlightenment, which we now translate, generalize, and say it is intellectual revolution that we're embarking on, non-violence. That is what we need to do. Outside of that, if you know some of the things that some of us know, I'm telling you, some of these persons that you are blowing, that are blowing siren, they will go off the siren and be sneaking, because we are nothing but a side monkey. Yes, the worst part is in our part of the world, where somebody or some people could use the name of God to camouflage and deceive people, deceive themselves, which is the worst form of deceit, while carrying out real big-time havoc. It is time to save the country. We do not have reformers yet. What we need are reformers, not just people that are have access to power by any means. And some persons just say that leadership or power is not emotionally, I don't want to use a particular word, transmuted. But now, people, just because of emotional relationship, some persons who are not even supposed to be near where power is, they are leaving one office to the other because of emotional connections with people who feel that the world revolves within their hands. Your wife said, Lagbayi, you own the world. And so anybody, because of your relationship, because of your fraternity, bring him and put there. After all, what do they do?
So you say that they are not correcting the mistakes.
we are worsening things. You know, what mistakes are anybody correcting? If you, okay, take for instance, when Mr. President came, one of the first things he did that gave me hope was the appointment of Jim Obaze, as the special investigator to probe CBN. Sharon, you are an AOP, and because of that, you must read widely. Have you read the report? Is it not the same thing that happened with NEDC, that we're celebrating that Buhari is going to reorganize and help Niger Delta to survive? And NEDC, people had to off the mic at National Assembly. Today, what has happened to that forensic audit? Nothing. What has happened to Jim Obaze's report? Nothing. We've not started. We have not started. And if you read the stories of some persons individually, you will know that we are under siege. Individually. Past records, criminal records, here and there, found dead. Have they changed? No. You look at them and you know that we are under siege. So what is the way forward? Citizens' engagement. Let's do it this way. That's why, like His Excellency has done by making commissioners to come and talk to not just media, talk to stakeholders. I won't stop saying this. It's one of the best ideas that should be replicated at all levels. And that is from Pastor Moino to Nigeria and maybe the world. But then, bring analysts to not just say NGOs. Some NGOs or civil society groups are out there to see what they can grab. Like one of them told me when I was doing hunger strike, and they were recommended, I wrote to them, they said, send your letter. They sent me a letter. Well, after speaking with their whoever, I sent my letter, and I had hope. I was added to their platform, and I now posted my picture of the hunger strike and a small write-up. One of them private chat me, and what did he tell me? He told me to take down the post, that they are not here to do serious advocacy. They want to endear themselves to governments. Shame on such people. I am careful, so I just ignored him. I waited for them to take down my post from their platform. I didn't see, and I didn't even see things there. Maybe I'm not even there again, I don't know. But to tell you that it's not enough that somebody says I'm an activist. Not enough that somebody says running an NGO. They are looking for where to be relevant, where to make money to eat.
All right. Thank you very much.
Those are not the kind of people that we're talking about.